All right, today we are diving into something really cool. It's this wonderfully clever essay by Eugenia Gallardo called New Books. And it asks a question that, sounds almost absurd at first. Have we actually run out of stories to tell? The argument it builds is surprisingly powerful. So let's get right into it. So right out of the gate, the essay hits you with this really provocative question. Is it actually time to stop writing new books? I mean, think about that. Has every possible story already been told? It's this bold, kind of unthinkable idea, right? And where Gallardo starts her argument is, well, it's very unexpected. So instead of some deep philosophical argument, the whole thing kicks off with what looks like a mathematical proof. Yeah, you heard that right. Gallardo presents this shocking calculation, a formula that she claims proves with cold, hard logic that literature is, for all intents and purposes, finished. And this is it. This is the formula. It looks almost comically simple, doesn't it? You take the total number of books ever published, you divide that by the total number of active readers, and then you multiply the whole thing by this mysterious Kabbalistic number 7. And the answer it spits out? It's over. The job is done. Literature is complete.
So what does this formula lead to? Well, one single conclusion: total redundancy. The essay basically argues that writers and publishers are suffering from material fatigue and obsolescence. It even calls their eventual extinction just and necessary. I mean, wow, that's a pretty bleak endpoint to draw from what looks like a simple bit of math.
Okay, so with this formula as her foundation, Gallardo starts to build her case against writing any more books. She asks, why walk again what has already been walked? And to prove her point, she calls in some pretty heavy hitters, the giants of literature.
First up, Shakespeare, of course. I mean, if the master playwright already gave us the definitive take on how love works or how betrayal stings, what is any modern writer really doing? Aren't they just, in her words, reheating the same old dish?
And listen, it definitely doesn't stop with Shakespeare. The whole point of the essay, at this stage, is that all the great themes, they've been completely exhausted by the masters. It's like they've built these massive literary monuments, and now there's no new ground left to build on.
Let's take Gabriel Garcia Marquez, for example. The argument here is that he painted such a complete, such a definitive portrait of Latin America that the case is basically closed. So why would you bother trying to tell a similar story, even if you garnished it with technological overtones?
And the list just keeps going. Ernest Hemingway, she says, already mastered the cold, hard logic of cruelty. Juan Rulfo, he took us to the absolute depths of this very specific, dry, desolate kind of sorrow. You see the pattern here? Each author basically conquered a specific emotional or philosophical territory.
And then you've got Borges, who mapped out the grand intellectual architecture of entire civilizations. The point is becoming crystal clear. These writers didn't just tell stories. They built whole worlds and defined massive concepts, seemingly for all time.
And it's not just about the authors, it's the ideas themselves. I mean, we've already explored the absurd with Beckett's Godot, who famously never shows up. We've wrestled with the philosophical weight of Kundera's unbearable lightness, from the sensuality of Anais Nin to the playful, witty exhaustion of Monterosso. It really starts to feel like every single corner of the human experience has already been mapped out. It seems like everything's been done.
So we arrive at the conclusion of this grand, pretty somber argument. And it's this: the great task we set for ourselves when we invented the written word. Well, it's done. It has been fulfilled. The rest, as she puts it, is silence. Man, that feels final, doesn't it?
But just when you're about to accept this literary eulogy, just as you're nodding along thinking, yeah, maybe she has a point, the entire essay just pivots on a dime. Gallardo pulls the rug right out from under you with a complete and sudden reversal of her own argument. It's just two simple words, but no. And just like that, with that single phrase, the entire argument that we've been following, it's completely torn down.
Because as it turns out, that whole elaborate proof, it was all a setup. Gallardo didn't actually believe any of that stuff about the end of literature. She built this massive straw man just so she could knock it down and reveal something way more profound about why we create, why we are, in fact, still here.
And this is where we see the essay's real point. That first formula, it was simple. It was reductive, and it led straight to a dead end. But the reality of creativity, well, that's the complete opposite. It's an infinitely complex process that isn't looking for a final answer. It actually proves that the work itself is constant and totally necessary.
And this is the real formula for creativity. Now, obviously, this isn't an equation you're supposed to solve. It's a beautiful, complex, almost nonsensical string of mathematical terms. It's a perfect metaphor for the chaotic, unpredictable, and completely unstoppable force that is human creativity. It's not logical, it's generative. It just creates.
And that, right there, is what this essay is really all about. The creative impulse. That fundamental, irrepressible human force that makes us create new things. It doesn't care about logic. It couldn't care less that Shakespeare already wrote about love. It exists simply because it has to.
So what started out looking like a eulogy for the written word completely flips and reveals itself as this powerful, witty celebration of it. Gallardo takes us on this whole winding journey just to prove that we don't create because it's necessary or because it's logical. We create because we're human. It's an act of defiance against the silence.
Which, leaves us with one final question. The essay's initial fake argument was that all the old stories are finished, but now we see that's not the point at all. The real question isn't whether the old stories are finished, but what new one will you tell?